Good morning. Welcome to Morning Moments. I am so glad that you came to join us today, whatever platform you're watching this on today. I have a special guest. She's a daughter of a guest I had a few weeks ago. One of the McMillions. There seems to be a million of them, but one of the McMillions. I have Bijou McMillion. She is associate producer, COO. I know she's done some acting and book editing, and who knows what else she's doing. But it's great to have her on. Welcome to Morning Moments.
Thank you so much, Andy. I'm excited to be here.
Uh, I had your mother on. We just show her book one more time. There, she sent me her books. I had her on, and what a great heritage to have parents that are serving the Lord and having that heritage of going to church, hearing about Christ early on. And but I want to ask you personally, what do you do, and why do you do it?
Well, I am currently right now, I am a associate producer. It's kind of fun because when you're in the Christian film industry, you can kind of wear a couple of hats at the same time. So between associate and line producer, kind of learning both ropes at the same time. Um, why I do producing is really because God told me that I would do it. So that's very much the reason why. I was basically one day in a car, and I was listening to a music video by a Christian artist, and I was just like looking out the window. And at that point in my life, I had maybe a little bit of an idea that I would love to do filmmaking or something one day, maybe be a director or something. But I wasn't like actively pursuing it whatsoever. I think I was either 19 or 20 years old. Um, and I'm 22 right now. So it's not that long ago. and so I was in the back of the car as my family's driving home one day, listening to this music video, and I'm looking out the window, and I just so clearly heard God tell me, um, you will be a producer, just like that. And I was like, a producer? I was kind of going more for like a director, but whatever you want, God. I had no idea what a producer was. I was like, I don't know what a producer is. What does that even mean? But that was kind of my response. I was like, a producer. I was kind of going for a director, but whatever you want, God. Like, sure. I didn't know. And immediately I heard right after that, he said, because I will bring you a director. And fast forward a few years, God lines up a few things, and here I am in Tennessee, in this crazy, amazing place where I just kind of got pulled in to be associate producer for some amazing people that just so happened to be directing the music video I was actually listening to when I heard that.
Oh
So
my.
yeah, it was just like a full circle God moment.
There's something to be said about being behind the scenes and making things happen rather than all you've been in front of the camera too,
Yeah.
but there's something to be said of being in that producing role, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of activities producers do, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of logistics, I feel like, and it kind of just depends what kind of producer you are. So right now I'm kind of stepping into some archival producing for a documentary, so that's like its own ball game, and there's not a lot of archival producers out there. So it's like, yeah, if you guys want to become one, please join. we so yeah.
And there's something to be said about learning the whole the whole industry piece by piece, isn't there?
Mhm.
And there's so much to really so much to learn into it, isn't there?
Yeah, I feel like that there's a lot of pieces. What I didn't know, especially back then, I was like, I had no idea that, there's everything between like the props and the costume, and then there's like all the people that you see on crew on set, but then there's all those people that are at the office. They're holding down the fort, they're filling out the COIs, they're filling out the legal forms, they're doing the contracts, they're negotiating deals, they're doing line budgets. They are, determining whether we have funds to do this next shoe, or do we have funds to maybe scale it down, or do we take from here and put it there? And you get all these like fun logistics. And then there's all the post-production world, which I sometimes step into as well, which is like the edits and the coloring and the music and all of that. Like that's its whole other world. Like, and it's in a sense there. I feel like the film world can be compartmentalized, but at the same time, I feel like I'm very blessed to be in a position where I can kind of step into many of those areas. And that's one thing that I love about my job as being associate producer and line producer is like I can kind of step into post production when we're closing out the film, or I can step into archival, or I can step into the budget,
Mhm.
or I can be helping one of the PAs one day running a hazer onto the set if at the last minute something's going on. So
There was something else when we were talking, and you were talking about how young you were when you found the Lord and you made a decision to follow the Lord. Uh, I too was came to the Lord at an early age, many more years than you, but that's beside the point. Yeah, so I've been saved now 58, 59 years, something like that. Um, but one of the things that I had to come to being a preacher's kid is that God doesn't have any grandchildren. And I'm not grandfathered into the kingdom of God just because my parents have a relationship. And when I realized that God is not my grandfather, he's my father, I'm his child, that
wow.
really was special to me to know that even though my mother and father is a child of God, I'm his child as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel that very deeply because, um, I think a lot of kids have this idea of like, oh, my parents have, these rules or they have this thing, but it's not really about that. It's like you have to pursue Christ yourself. And that's kind of always been like with me is like, in a sense, I've always wanted to have my own faith. Like I've always wanted to have that independence of like being dependent on him, not on what they're. And I totally respect them. I totally, love their advice and their wisdom because parents do have a lot of advice and wisdom, contrary to most 22-year-olds. I feel like say, I feel like they do. So, but I really just wanted to have my own like. I really just wanted to have that quality time with God and
Yeah,
really seek Him first.
that's fabulous. Now, this is recorded, so don't be surprised if your mom and dad doesn't use this. Just show you this tape back. So
Oh yeah.
I can see that happening, right?
Yep.
Is there anything, where I'm going to put down below contact information and how people could get a hold of your film company. You folks are filmmakers. You guys produce books. There's just so many different things that your family does. But is there is there anything you could say to folks starting out like you have? Anything that you could say that maybe would inspire them, or words that would really encourage them about their steps? People are searching, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. I was just actually having this conversation with somebody at the pool yesterday. And she was like, I told her this story, and she was like, wow, like I love that you got it so young. Like you figured out all this stuff like so young. She's like, I hope I get this figured out by 27. And I was like, here's the thing. When the moment came to me, I didn't really even realize how important and significant it was. Um, like I knew it meant something, but I thought that this would all happen when I'm like in my 30s or something. Like I thought this was going to be at least 10, 20 years away. But God literally plucked me up and put me into this within like weeks, um, after meeting somebody. So one thing I do want to say to the people that like they're like, oh, there's pressure of like, I don't know my calling, I don't know where I'm going, all that, because quite frankly, I had that like the whole time. It wasn't like I kind of like, even when I knew, I didn't know in my head. I may have known in my heart, but I didn't really know in my head because I was trying to have this like big epiphany moment when it really was just God leading me in directions. So if there's anything I would want to say is probably just don't overly focus on it. Yes, you want to have a vision for your life, but you want it to be God's vision and just follow wherever He leads and directs. So when He gives you some sort of prompting, be prepared for the opportunity. That was one thing that I think definitely set me up for where I'm at.
I was just thinking the disciples they were doing something before God called them. And I would encourage everybody, just do something. I mean,
Yeah.
work for the Lord, work for him, and he'll give you direction. God knows your heart. It's up to us to hear his voice. He will speak to you if you listen. And if you're doing what you can, even though you're not sure if it's God's call for you, keep doing it. And you
Yeah,
often you find it within what you're doing.
for sure. And I think that's the thing is like, I have a very varied background, but all these things I'm finding I'm using right now. I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, so I'm using stuff that I learned in the corporate world. Okay, some things that I learned while book editing, some things I learned while editing the Psalm project.
yeah.
There's just these different things. I'm like, okay, this is all making sense now.
Yes, yes, and it all comes about because of being available. And when you say I'm available to God, whatever I'm going to learn everything I can with what I'm doing now. It's what I've learned through the years. I call it transferable knowledge. What's
Mm,
transferable in the corporate world into ministry, what's transferable for me into as a nurse into teaching. And it's just amazing how you could just that transferable knowledge is there if you're being diligent and doing the best you can with what you're doing now. That's absolutely wonderful.
absolutely, that's really cool.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing what God has for you. Um, I'm going to put these sites down below as I usually do, and you could find her online. You could find out what God's doing with her in her different works. But I
Yeah,
want you to be praying for her and her whole family, that
thank
God
you.
would continue to bless them and direct them, and that He would continue to be at the center of their life. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Andy. I really appreciate it. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. We should do it again.
Yes, let's do it again. Yes, and thank you for joining us for Morning Moments. And I'd like to ask you to, if you would, keep on coming back, and may God bless you.